The most delicious warmth is the sunshine in May. She makes the leaves swell with nothing but a touch, and my skin quiver and glow just the same. My days of livelihood were once limited by her withdrawal. When she was not present, I missed her sorely. I could barely survive. That is, before I found it. I discovered it while I was digging. Hot fire, strong fire, fuel. I collected it and carried it home with me. That winter, and the next winter, and many winters after that, I burned the fuel and I was warm and comfortable. Or mostly comfortable. Sometimes I feared that I would lose control of it. It was stronger than it needed to be after all. Once, it pulled my breath away. I felt dizzy, and my head pounded, and I had to step outside. I was careful after that. After studying the fuel a great deal, I found a way to transform it so that I could warm myself from a distance. I was so excited that I traveled all the way to my neighbor, and when I showed him my discovery, he was excited too. My neighbor and I made plans and worked hard. We collected as much fuel as we could and built a station that transformed it and sent energy to our houses. When I returned home, life was easier and more comfortable than ever. So easy, I had to find more things to do. I used the energy to power new toys and new tools, and when my house became crowded, I made it bigger. Life was good, even when my neighbor called and said that our fuel was running out. We went out together and did some digging, some drilling, some fracking, and we found some more. We used more and more and more fuel. Meanwhile, our planet began to change, quickly and in ways that we hadn't planned. I was glad that we had built the energy station over my horizon, because at my neighbor's it loomed over us, and the air became heavy and foul, and I was glad to leave it behind. Yet, it followed me. The sky grew thick overhead and strangled the sun's rays, which hung about me that summer and the next for a strangely long time. Good thing I had just the tool and the fuel to keep myself cool. The weather became more erratic, so that I mistrusted every cloud, and even the waves of the sea crept up on me and whispered dark things, and I shut my door tight. But with energy, I found, the more I used, the more I needed. Again, my neighbor called and said,
"We need more fuel!"
And I set out that day on a long, hard journey. It was becoming more difficult to find, and I had arrived in a foreign land before I had collected any at all. Here I met a stranger, another neighbor, and one in distress.
"Please, I need your help!"
He pleaded.
"The sea is swallowing my home!"
He cried. And indeed, it was. The house was teetering over the edge of a cliff that was quickly being pulled apart by the rising water.
"I am sorry,"
I said.
"I cannot help. I am tired, and I need to bring home my fuel."
And so I did. My house was comfortable when I returned. It was never too warm or too cold. My showers were hot, and my food stayed fresh, and my dishes cleaned themselves. Yes, my house was very comfortable. Me, I sat inside, away from the sky and the water, and waited for spring. When May arrived, I grabbed my chair, opened the door, and parked myself on the lawn. The sun beat down on me. The grass was crispy under my feet. A fly tried and tried again to land on my nose, and I was too exhausted to swat it away. I took a deep breath and listened for the birds. Instead, I heard a thrum, a drone, a throb. It was my cooling machine. I abandoned my seat and moved away into the shade of the tree. Above me, leaves shimmered calmly in the sunlight.
Where has May gone?
I shouted at them. They flashed back at me.
Tree, why is it that you stand here, taller and healthier than ever, while I suffer? The sun has betrayed me. If she had been there for me when I needed her, none of these changes would be happening.
I aimed a good kick at the trunk, but I fell away in pain, and the tree did not budge. Angrily, I grasped at a nearby sapling and tore it violently from the ground. I lay where I fell, covered in dirt, in defeat, but oddly not discomfort. The sapling had roots, thick and as long as its stem had been, heavy with cool, moist earth. And in this coolness I was now comforted. I had found my lovely May. She had always been there for me beneath my feet. From then on, I knew that I need only reach out to her. For my home, I grew roots. Instead of using energy to heat, I used energy to move heat, my sunshine stored invariably in the ground. And I found that I used far less this way. In the winter, I saw that the wind carried her warmth away from me, so I made my walls thicker and sealed all the holes that I could find. I ran to my neighbor and said that we could stop burning so much fuel because I had found a better way, a way for our future.
This is great,
wheezed my neighbor, and tomorrow began that day. I didn't stop too soon in seeking wisdom from the tree. I saw how its leaves collected the sun and how my house could do the same. Once my leaves were installed, I made as much energy as I used, and my life was in balance. With time, the sky cleared and the sea halted its rise. Guilty, made grateful, and for it all the more wise, I planted a new tree near the house where it shaded me. We took care of each other and lived happily ever after.